Hello, my name is Emily and welcome to my family's spare bedroom, aka the yellow room, where I've done all of my schoolwork this entire year. However, this project that I did was actually done in Toronto, not in the yellow room. My project is entitled 506 Carleton Street, which is named after the streetcar that I take every single morning and afternoon on my commute to my internship/work. So, 506 Carleton Street is intended to be a journalistic first person visual diary of what a commuter would encounter and see along the way. And I wanted to highlight everything from the beginning of my journey to the walk up the stairs to the office, as well as the details someone who does the commute every day would miss. And from my experience, my commute became so banal and repetitive that I wasn't paying attention to where I was actually going, and one day I missed my stop. And as a newcomer to Toronto, this kind of had me a little bit panicked. So I decided to showcase the aspects of the commute that I was missing, as well as what others who I thought were on autopilot would see if they would just lift their heads up from their phones. So one of my favorite things about the project that I did, like one of the highlights, was I was able to take a lot of great photos and capture audio on my iPhone. I don't own and don't have access to a better quality camera, so I kind of had to make do with what I had, which I think turned out pretty well, as I have an iPhone 7 Plus. And like I said before, my audio was also recorded on my iPhone, so I didn't have to use a recording device. But something that I want to highlight as well as about my capstone is that looking at my project, it doesn't seem like a lot of work. It's just a lot of video and photos and audio just on a web page, but it was a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. So from editing all the photos, editing all the videos, to editing 5 different audio recordings and mixing them to create more of an authentic sound, as well as coding the actual website and uploading everything, it took a lot longer than I thought it would. Shout out to my iPhone for making things easy for me and allowing me to edit on the go. And a final thing I wanted to highlight was the quote from Ferris Bueller that I used at the end of my project. Maybe this is a bit silly or lame, but I just found the quote really encapsulated what I wanted my project to be. So going into what I learned, I began taking a few photos every single morning while I was commuting, especially if I saw someone or something interesting. I expected to encounter a lot more like weird and wonderful things as I was commuting, but a lot of the time the streetcar was either empty or it kind of lacked any overly engaging subjects. But as I learned, that was kind of the point of my project. I wanted to find what was hidden behind the boring. So I used these kind of opportunities to stay alert and try to see what else that I could see. So for example, this is when I would film an internal perspective of the streetcar turning or moving and trying to capture all of the colors and movement when I could. Another thing I learned that while taking photos and video on a streetcar isn't the easiest, as the streetcar bounces and bumps and doesn't really bode well for a steady shot. So because I was shooting on my phone, I didn't have a tripod. So I kind of did whatever I could to balance things, be it on another seat or my knee or like literally on the side of the streetcar. Some of my videos are a bit shaky, but now I'm going to say that it was intentional, try and capture what it was really feeling like to be there. Going into kind of what I did and why and what worked well and what didn't, there are a lot of things. So I decided to use video, photo, and audio as 3 separate entities for my project. As I received some feedback from my editorial group, that is, if I originally put all my video and cut photos into it like I was going to do before, it could end up a little bit choppy. So I also didn't have the idea of embedding all of my photos and everything onto a website. So after discussing this with my editorial group, I knew that anchoring everything into one place where every shot and sound could live on its own was the best way to highlight the individual aspects of my commute as well as everything as a cohesive whole. So I think it worked well, especially the fact that the audio auto plays when the web page opens and you don't go from page to page. The audio doesn't skip or start over. It just plays continuously, which kind of just leads you throughout the journey of my commute. And I also took away any additional audio from the video so that that audio wouldn't take away from the main anchored audio. And something else that I did was edit my photos to make them look a little bit grittier and darker, as I wanted the photos to really have more of an impact. So I came to realize I didn't really necessarily create the same effect for the videos that I filmed. I originally had over 15 video clips that I had to cut to 10 seconds long and then color correct them to get the video to reflect the same lighting as I took in the photos and whatnot, which proved to be more difficult than I thought it would be, and all of them don't necessarily match, so I'm not totally pleased with this aspect of my project. In the future, I would definitely try to ensure that I started filming or taking photos in the same creative direction, and made sure that I was able to match the coloring of both before I went ahead with one idea. Going back to the web page that I created, I had to do a bit of coding to make Tumblr theme work for me. So I had to edit the HTML to make the audio player autoplay the music, or sorry, not the music, the sound recording. And I was originally going to have all the videos autoplay as well, but this would have required me to delete basically everything that I'd already done, and time wasn't going to allow that. So I set up my webpage to continuously scroll, so that the music and feel of the page didn't come to a halt at any point. But every time I would go back and view what I had done so far, a lot of the images wouldn't load properly and the theme was becoming buggy. So I decided to just place the project through 3 separate pages, which was accessible through a little arrow at the bottom right of the webpage. And luckily I discovered too, like I said before, that the music or the audio doesn't skip. It just continuously flows no matter where you are on the website. And one last thing was I created some graphics to really help guide the visual diary along and give the story a little bit more context through facts about commuting in Canada and Toronto, and specifically about the TTC. So this wasn't originally my plan, but it was a really good suggestion from Romaine that I incorporated into the project. And I took photos of the sidewalk, the streetcar cables, to use as a background, because I didn't want the actual background of the graphic to be the thing that stands out the most. So I used like red over top of the photo. That was the same red as they use in the TTC graphic. The TTC logo, and I also used a minimalistic white colored font. And I really believe that this worked well, but I did find that it was difficult to organize everything on my webpage, from the video to the graphics to the pictures, to make everything flow well, because they all have different upload speeds. So I ended up having to go back and flip things around, and it was just very time consuming when it didn't need to be. And I don't love where all the graphics are positioned and the photos surrounding them, but looking back, I definitely would have taken more photos and started to develop the actual script before I even set out to take the photos and video and make the graphics itself, just so everything flows better, and the statements that I was actually making in the stats were more powerful than they actually were. So yeah, that is 506carletonstreet.tumblr.com. I hope you enjoyed and learned a little bit more about my project. If anyone has any questions, hit me up. And just overall, I really enjoyed this Capstone project experience. Right, peace.